And I want to go now to Evan Perez and Harry Sandick, who are back with me. And also joining the conversation, Jen Psaki, former Obama White House Communications Director, and Marc Short, former White House Director of Legislative Affairs for President Trump. Evan, all right, we go through these filings. Look, there is new information in here. B, they're talking about core matters to this, Russia, contacts with the administration and the White House all the way through this year. And you're also learning more about the payment, the Stormy Daniels, Karen McDougal payments in these filings. So to say that the president is totally cleared is frankly absurd, if not almost humorous.
Right. And look, I mean, despite what Sarah Sanders is saying, I can tell you behind the scenes, the president's lawyers, they know it's far from that. They know that the Michael Cohen matter is what they call a kill shot, is an attempt by the Justice Department to go after the president. And Erin, they knew this when Michael Cohen stood up in court a few months ago and pleaded guilty the first time and said that he was directed, that he did the campaign finance violations that he was admitting to, he did it at the direction of the president. Now, that wasn't in the court documents that the prosecutors wrote, but Michael Cohen stood up and said that in court, and that was the first time the president's lawyers were like, oh, we know what this means. And so today is the first time that we see prosecutors actually using the same language that Michael Cohen used in court, and it really just affirms to them that they believe that the Justice Department is now firmly going for the president. And look, they can't charge him with a crime, but this is definitely something that the Democrats and the Congress can take up once they have their hands on this come next year.
So, Marc, George Conway, Kellyanne's husband, who obviously has, come out multiple times, right, to call the president out on various Russia-related matters and others, but he is a conservative, respected lawyer, has already gone on Twitter about the specific issue of the payments, right, which come up in the Cohen filing from the Southern District, taking issue, the president saying, scot-free, right, free, we're over this, and he goes, except for that little part where the U.S. Attorney's Office says that you directed and coordinated with Cohen to commit 2 felonies. Other than that, totally scot-free. So, Marc, is the president totally in denial here, or does he think he can muddy the waters enough to win the court of public opinion?
I don't think the president's in denial, Erin. I do think that the president does believe that this is, in his terms, a witch hunt, and that it's something that is less about collusion with Russia and more about other crimes that perhaps Michael Cohen or Paul Manafort committed. But I think we have to keep in mind that Michael Cohen does have every incentive at this point, because he's under prosecution for other crimes he's committed, and tax evasion, other dishonest comments, to want to work with the prosecution to go after somebody else if that makes his sentencing more lenient. So
right,
he
for
does
sure,
have
but
every
I just want to make the point, Marc, that you're right about that, of course. But they are saying that the information he's provided has been, quote, consistent with other evidence, right? They're making a point. We're not taking him at his word.
I hear you on that, Erin, but we also don't know what that information is that perhaps he's consistent on. It may be something substantive. I don't know, but it might be something that's not substantive.
Right. And now, of course, Harry, this is a guy, Michael Cohen, who recorded conversations. Right. When it comes to these payments, I mean, this felony issue obviously could be extremely significant. Yep. The president, you've pointed out, what at the time, Donald Trump, would have needed to know that this was a violation of campaign finance law. If they're saying this in a court filing now, though, that he directed someone else to commit felonies, what then are the next steps? He is a sitting president. You're now talking about a sitting president and a felony.
So as we heard John Dean say a few minutes ago, if this is not something that can be handled by the prosecutors because of the Department of Justice policy, or at least it couldn't be handled while Trump is in office, perhaps you could envision charges after he leaves office. Before that time, it would be a matter that could be taken up by the House of Representatives, considering whether this crime, if he committed it actually to obtain the presidency, which is exactly what the founding fathers had in mind when they said we need to have a power of impeachment, and the House could take that up as impeachment.
So, Jen, what do you think the significance is here of this particular part, right? This is the payments, right? The Trump directed Cohen, right? Cohen said it before, but they're saying it in a court filing now, that Cohen was directed by Donald Trump to make these payments to Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal to influence the election.
Well, look, I think, Erin, that this is just the icing here, and not the icing, but it's just the tip of the iceberg is really what I mean to say. Remember, we haven't focused a lot on the campaign finance violations. We've talked a lot over the last year and a half, for understandable reasons, about the accusations of collusion and of obstruction of justice. So anytime, of course, a president of the United States is accused of committing a felony, that's serious business. That's something I'm certain the House will look further into. And whether or not he can be indicted while in office, that's for lawyers to decide. But it's never a good place to be. And remember, he was accused of this situation came about because he was covering up for hush money payments he made to a Playboy playmate. You know, and I mean, the whole story here tells you a lot about who President Trump is. That's the troubling piece of this. But there's a lot more to come, and this is really, again, the tip of the iceberg, I think.
So, Mark, let me ask you: the president, you know, you've got these two statements coming out from the White House where they are, you know, more statement-like things. And then you have his tweets, which are his tweet-like things, 7 of them today. I'm sorry, then there was the 8th, right, where he just said, you know, he's totally vindicated. A few of them, Robert Mueller and leak and lion James Comey are best friends, one of Mueller's conflicts of interests. Then he goes on talking about crooked Hillary and that report. Is anybody minding the shop there? And I say this, Mark, in the context of we're learning, Caitlin Collins is reporting that John Kelly, the president's chief of staff, and the president are not even talking. So is anybody, I mean, not that anyone's ever in charge of him, but is anybody minding him right now?
Look, Erin, Caitlin's a great reporter, and I trust her reporting that John Kelly and the president aren't talking today. But there's also been a lot of reporting about John Kelly will be out any day, and maybe that's to be determined too. But we've been down this road a few different times. The president clearly believes that his ability to tweet is his direct ability to communicate with the American people and get around the mainstream media, and he continues to do that. That's been it for the case from day one. It was the case in the campaign, and that's not going to change.
Well, now, go ahead, Jen.
I was just going to say, it is not normal for a chief of staff and a president of the United States to not be in contact. Aside from all of the controversy and scandal around President Trump, he remains the president. And in order to govern the country and function, you need to have a working relationship with the chief of staff. I would suspect that given the reporting that he has been talking to Mueller and that they're not talking, that this may actually be real this time. He may actually be leaving. My question is actually, why is he still there if all of this is going on?
Right.
I think if John Kelly had a conversation with Mueller's team, the president would know about that. That's not going to be a secret. It's something that would have been coordinated.
All right. And of course, we don't know whether the president knew about it or not, but we do know, of course, that John Kelly was interviewed by Mueller's team this year. Thank you all.